Okay, welcome everyone to our second of the year Burnt Brunch at the beautiful Art Hotel. This place is stunning. Thank you to Sophie-Anne, wherever he is. There he is, for sorting this out. Can we just give a round of applause for Sophie-Anne and his team, please? So cocktails are on the roof in the heated pool after this. You brought your costumes, right? Really excited about this morning's panel. It's going to be food for the brain, nourishing, which is exactly what Burnt Brunches are all about. And then we're going to have some fantastic hospitality, food and drink afterwards as well. So don't go rushing off when we finish, okay? I'm going to introduce you to Mica, my colleague, who's going to be our quiz master for the morning. So Mica, over to you.
Hi, everybody. So yes, I'm Mica. I'm the Global Sales Director for the Burnt Chef Project. And thank you guys all so much for coming to Burnt Brunch this morning. Thank you to Art Hotel for having us. And thank you also to Planday for supporting our event today. So Burnt Brunch, at Burnt Brunch, we create a space for honest conversations about hospitality. So it's not just the operational side of running venues, it's about the human experience. It's about leading people in an industry that we all really care about. So today we're exploring what the future of leadership in hospitality looks like, because it's changing. And teams expect different things, the pace of work is relentless, and a lot of people are asking themselves, you know, how do we build successful businesses without burning out ourselves, without burning out our team? So that's what today's conversation is going to be on. So before we begin, let's get a little sense of the room. So we've got a couple icebreakers here. So let's see, hands in the air, if you currently lead people in some way, if that's a team, a department, or supporting others in your workplace. Okay. So almost everybody here. Now, let's think back over your careers. Hands up if you can remember a leader who really built you up, somebody that sticks in your mind, who supported you, helped you grow, made you feel capable. Okay. Oh, everybody, that's good. And now, on the other side, hands up if you can also remember a leader who had that opposite effect on you, someone who made work feel a little bit harder than it needed to be. Anybody? Yeah, 100% again? Yeah, okay, all right. But that's the reality. You know, most of us have experienced both sides of those, and everybody in this room has experienced both sides there. So those experiences, you know, they often shape the kind of leaders that we then become. So, on to our lovely panel this morning. So leadership shapes our experience in hospitality more than almost anything else. And so the best leaders, they stay with us for years. You guys all remember that really good leader that you had. You all put your hands up there. So they influence our confidence, our careers, and whether we stay in the industry a lot of the time as well. So today we're going to be bringing together these three lovely people who have spent a lot of time thinking about leadership from really different perspectives. So I'm not going to read your bios off. I'd love to, you know, just hear from you guys. Share a little bit about your journey in hospitality, what leadership in the industry means to you today. So, Cassie, will you please take that away for us?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, I have to truncate. So, my experiences. So, I've been in the industry for 30 years, and my experience is very much in the independent SME side of the industry. So over 25 years ago, I set up my own places and did that for anything, or from cafes to fine dining restaurants, festivals, pubs, the whole lot. I sort of did a bit of everything. But what I do now is I create a space for independent hospitality businesses, because actually 99.6% of our industry is SMEs. And actually that's not always recognised in the industry. And certainly my experience, having done it myself, was just how lonely and isolating it could be to be a leader in that space, particularly as the entrepreneur, the person driving the business forward. So Kith & Kin is a space for those people still doing it. And also alongside that, I wrote a book, Standout Hospitality, which is that experience of the independent operators and actually how do they, when they are quite often bootstrapping businesses or starting small and they've not got those big departments and those big budgets, how do they create thriving hospitality businesses, because even in our difficult circumstances, there are businesses that do still thrive.
And congratulations on writing a book. I know you brought
Thank you.
some of them.
Yes, there are a few books there. I couldn't bring everyone one because I came by train, but I did bring some. So if you're welcome to help yourself.
Thank you. And Kris, how about you?
I was just thinking about it. I don't know how long I've been in hospitality for now. I've been involved in hospitality for many different guises. So I've worked in bars down in lovely Costa del Bournemouth, which was a great experience. Fun, energetic, thriving, waking up in the morning, can't feel my feet, wanting to do it again. So like brilliant first-hand experience of working front of house. And then I was supplying chefs fine dining ingredients for 8 years across the southwest, and got to work with everyone from Michelin star restaurants to foragers to importing the most beautiful ingredients from around the world, like truffles, etc., and charging a princely sum for those. And then here we are with Burnt Chef, which we're now into our 7th year, coming up 7th year. So I guess in total, like almost 20 years now.
And you've seen it from a lot of different angles.
Yeah. You know, my background around leadership, you know, the first team I managed was when I was 20 years old. I was working in a call center, managing a team of mixed individuals from 17 years old all the way up to 65 years old on a bank of call center. And I went through 4 years of management training to do that in quite a rigid corporate environment. And then, you know, training chefs to become decent salespeople where they actually take a moment to think about the needs of their customers rather than trying to pummel things onto people and forcefully. So leading with integrity and authenticity and trying to demonstrate best practice. And then here we are now, you know, global leaders. I think it's safe to say global leaders. We talked about imposter syndrome earlier, and I was like, I don't get it. Global leaders around mental health and well-being and leadership and culture. And, you know, certainly with the news stories that we've seen coming out recently, it seems that we are even more uniquely positioned to be able to offer the industry what it really needs in terms of educational tools and support systems. So, yeah.
Great.
That's me.
Awesome. And Michelle, please share.
Hello, I'm Michelle Moreno. I have a company called QAB Leadership. I was very lucky. I started in 1999 at a pre-opening of St. Martin's Lane Hotel. The first person I served was Leonardo DiCaprio. The very first person. I was terrible. And I went on to open over 50 restaurants and bars around the world. And I think I ended up, before I started this part of my career, running an office out of London and Dubai. And during that time, I got to see great leaders, bad leaders, and that's included myself. I got to see myself at my best, and I got to see myself at my worst. And I had started doing work on what does good look like and what does like ferocious, unbearable for everybody else to look like. And in that work of myself led me to what I do now. And so now I work with, from entrepreneurs and founders to senior leadership teams in global hotel groups. And fundamentally, I facilitate conversations. Where are you at? What are the pain points? And what do we need to do to be able to move it forward and help them build the skills, the culture, the dynamic, I suppose, to be able to go through this madness of whatever is being faced by us all regularly. So that uncertainty, and understanding that uncertainty is coming. So what are we going to do with it when it arrives? And it's an utter bloody joy. Yeah.
So I should say that we've trusted Michelle with some of our clients as well, and the work that she's done is phenomenal. You know, with multi-site operations. And has allowed them to be, you know, in one situation with the Buckham Group, I think it's safe to say leaders in that sector, you know.
Yeah, they were ready for it, and they have not evolved in terms of they're a different person. They've just grown their capacity and capability and thought process. So, like, yeah, I'm so proud of them. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. I'm interested to hear more from you because culture across different countries must influence leadership as well. So you've probably seen a lot of different perspectives on what leadership looks like, having traveled around and worked in the industry in other countries.
In some ways, there are major differences, and in many ways, there are no differences at all. Well, I'm doing a bias in communication with a hotel group at the moment, and you've got to be really mindful of culture impacting it, which can be from many states, hierarchy, family, there's so many elements to it. So, though it does come back to the same thing, do people feel like they belong? And what we might see as odding culture in certain countries, once you go there and you experience it and you see it from their perspective, it's the true sense of empathy, not that I'm being sympathetic, that I'm trying to understand it from your perspective, that I can learn from to be able to understand what we need to do then to move it forward. So, and do I think that has helped in the work I do? Is that it's not one way, and it's different, and people and cultures and size of teams and environments, it's all nuanced. And I think having that lived experience of seeing all them cultures makes you become far more curious to what the situations might be before you go in with any form of advice or leading in form of how should we navigate this communication.
Sure, that makes sense. And that works really well with our next question, actually. Cassie, your book talks about hospitality as identity, community, and culture. So when did hospitality become more than just work for you?
Probably from the start, but I mean, I'm not saying that I walked into hospitality and thought, oh, this is more than work. I mean, we all come into hospitality for a variety of different reasons, but I think I always enjoyed it because, you know, every single day was different. There's all the problem solving, but but being part of a team as well, and understanding that what you're doing is, I felt it was quite heroic. Almost every single day, you're being quite heroic, and that opportunity for coming home at the end of the day and going, yeah, but tomorrow can be better, and always having that sort of opportunity for growth within that, and that led me to want to open my own place. And I'd worked in, you know, a variety of different places before that, but I opened my own place pretty young, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to open a place that I want to be at. So it was for, you know, people in their early 20s, very local. These people, you know, people like me, were newly independent, really entering into adulthood for the first time, and it was a place for them to come together. And I was just sort of like, actually, we could be delivering really high quality all the time, and it can be just about the effect we have on people, just making someone smile every single day. And hospitality has that ability to change someone's day just like that. And I just loved it so much. And so we built this place for these people. And I think over the next decade of running just that place, even, I mean, we did other things as well, but just running that place, you know, we evolved with our customers. So we had a customer, and the business changed with them. So, you know, starting someone in their early 20s, going through to their early 30s. By the time we started as a local bar and ended up the best restaurant in the Midlands, you know, awarded by the Which Good Food Guide, you know, and we'd evolved with the customers. But what I'd sort of also watched during that time was how much we mattered to those people. So the people were coming in, they were meeting new people, they were building friendships, they were, you know, building relationships, using our venue as a space where groups would come together. You know, people then paired up, they got married, they had kids, they moved on, you know, and actually even now, people will come to me and say, oh, and tell me stories of, you know, my bar 25 years ago. The bar doesn't exist anymore. I have not done it for 15 years, but people will still come and tell me about how important it is to the story of their life and why it matters to them and to their families and all of that. And you go, this really matters. And this little business matters so much more than I ever thought it was, or the first reasons why I set it up. It just matters. And you see that across the industry, that what we're doing in hospitality is not serving food and drink. We're creating these canvases for people's lives to take place, for relationships. We are, you know, in a world that's moving faster, we all know it's, you know, we can't keep up with technology and how fast-paced it is. But the thing that makes hospitality really stand out is that we are the place where humanity still exists. You know, where it's humanity is where people go to experience what it is to be part of communities, to have friends, to have relationships. It's just so important. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I started with that level of passion, but certainly creating it and then creating it again and again and again and witnessing it and being a customer of other people's places and visiting other people's places and just knowing how much these places matter. Even if you only go there once, you're going for a reason, and it is not to eat food and drink. It's never about food and drink.
I love this because we are memory makers. We're creating memories for people. I mean, my background was in events and organizing people's weddings, the biggest day of your life, you know, or your baby shower, or your family's Christmas day. Like, people are that's gonna stick in their minds forever, and you get to be a part of that and create that for them. That's so special.
And there's the joy of being, you're the backdrop of it. You know how hard it is. That's what I say about being heroic. You're doing something so amazing. You're quiet in the background, and you don't take credit for it. Your space is, but it's so important, and I just love it. So.
There's Adam, I love the way you say humanity. I think, you know, in this world where we're needing connection more than ever, I've never heard it said that way, and like it pinged to me, and like in terms of like how do we celebrate it more than people get it, that it is a wonderful industry to be in, and I think that's a lovely word to use and hold on to as a pillar. And the Adam Byatt, I work with him at Trinity, and who's a phenomenal chef and a phenomenal businessman, actually. I'm watching Trinity's evolution over the 20 years it's been open, and it's probably more successful and more robust today than it ever has been. But he always says as well, with the memories things, he said, especially in today's day and age, like, we are creating escapism for people, like a moment where they don't have to be whatever is troubling them, that when they are sat in this backdrop, eating this food and drink, he says the same thing. It is not about the food and the drink, even it's about the memories and the escapism for that moment to just be. And every time he says it, like, it makes shivers down my spine, because it's so true.
It's a concept of the third place, this idea that everyone has to go to work and we all have a role at work. Yeah. We all know the burden of having whatever that role is. And then you go home, and even there you have a role. You know, you're someone's parent, you're someone's child, you're a partner, or, you know, or just a pet owner, whatever it is. But you have a role there to play. When you come into a hospitality space, you are choosing where you go to be with the people who you're going to be with, and you get to be just you. And there's so few spaces left anymore where that happens. And hospitality is the space where that is. I mean, and it's increasingly important.
It's the glue that holds society together, right? It's that safe space.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to talk about why leadership matters in those environments and in creating those environments for people. So, Michelle, at what point did you realize that leadership, rather than operations, was often the biggest challenge for hospitality businesses in creating those spaces for people?
COVID had hit. I had been doing the work for myself and for my teams, and with the reduction in the amount of people that were coming in, the challenges we were facing as a business, like, it was a painful time as an industry. And I wanted to help. And I thought, what is the thing that needs the support and the attention that is going to be able to help us move forward from where we are currently at, which was uncomfortable for nearly all of us. And it just kept on coming back to leadership, because leadership are going to build the strategy, leadership are going to build the psychological safety, leadership are going to build the inspiration, leadership are going to, have to show what the behavior looks like for this. Culture is an outcome of our behaviors. So you can't, your culture doesn't come because you sat in a room with me for a day and talked about what might it look like. That's not what it is. It's how you show up every single day and how you show up on your worst days. And every time I sort of was looking at how can I help, and how can I make some money at the same time, like it all came back to if we can build competence in leadership from many angles, that should make this roughy waters, like we just get more of a tanker to be able to get through this time. And so that was what drove that leadership might be the way and there's many ways, there's not just one. That was the one I decided to focus on and support. There's many elements that people are playing and have their skill in and their expertise in to be able for us to get through. My one was that if I can support leadership, we might be able to navigate. I might play a small part in navigating through.
It's almost, 5 years to the day that we met each other in Battersea? Mm-hmm. Or was it London Bridge? It was at the Hospitality Titans event where I first met you, and you were just like really getting into your groove.
Didn't have a clue what I was doing. Yeah.
You sounded as confident as you do now. So
yeah. Well, it's definitely like anything, everything's an experiment. And I've been luckily entrusted to experiment with wonderful people, and through that, we keep experimenting, but we're getting closer and closer to formulas that we can test things out to see if they work for you.
So you think staying quite fluid and flexible as you're learning is really important, for leaders?
Yeah. If you think you've got it, you're going to start going backwards. And the world's changing constantly. No one expected what happened in the last month. So you have to be ready to ride that wave. So you don't have one way. That's not that. You're not going to get the answer. You've got to keep staying fluid and keep staying open and keep staying curious, and you've got to be alert to what is going on.
Try to expect the unexpected where you can. Yeah, absolutely. Kris, we talk to operators all the time through the Burnt Chef project. What are you hearing? Why do you think that leadership is such an important conversation right now to the people that you talk to?
Where do you begin? I think Michelle summarised it brilliantly. Like, culture's not something that you put on a poster and stick up in the staff room and be like, look guys, this is who we are, respect and trust. It's about how people behave and how people act. And especially with news events, but long before that as well, the recruitment crisis that we've got now is a direct result of teams trying to perform in high performance environments without strong leadership to be able to guide them through that. And for a long time, it was expected that if someone was great as, front of house or as back of house or as housekeeping, then put them into a management role, and all of a sudden that'll trickle down and they'll be able to share all that knowledge and they'll be fantastic. But what we haven't taken the time to understand in our experience, and this is where books like Stand Out and Michelle come in, is it takes time to teach those skill sets and to percolate that through your team. It takes time. Me as a 20-year-old manager had to do 4 years of management training to be able to do performance reviews, have interviews, learn empathy, learn that what drives each person within my team is completely different. And I had to adapt my management style for that. That was 4 years of training. Whereas we expect people to go, head chef's just left, so congratulations, you're head chef. You've got a brigade of 20, off you go. Some of them are senior than you, some of them are just first starters. And you're going, well, I don't want to fail, I don't want to look silly, so I'll do the best that I can, whilst also taking all the demands of the environment and the workplace on me. So leadership is critical to creating psychologically safe environments, which was something I was talking about in Canada what day of the week were we on? Tuesday, last week, which is around allowing your teams to give you feedback. If we change this, it could be better, or this is how I'm feeling currently, and allowing a safe environment to go, okay, I hear you, let's put our heads together and try and work this out. It's about developing skill sets and becoming a mentor. For any head chefs in the room, how many of you are still running past? Why are you running past as a manager? You know, again, I would question that. Your job is to upskill and to build your teams so that your job is redundant, because they can run themselves without you even being there. And that will help to start to reduce that turnover, to reduce that high pressure environment, or at least to build the resilience and capabilities whilst creating a safer narrative for front of house, back of house, whatever team you're in. Any organization or industry will have the same approach, if you like, to trying to create those safe environments where people want to come because they've heard about it from someone else and then never want to leave. Those are the sort of environments where leadership is critical for.
To touch on the one thing that you said, we very often see people shoot up through the ranks really quickly in hospitality because maybe there was nobody else. Or, I was made a sales director of a hotel when I absolutely should not have been a sales director of a hotel, straight up. I was not ready for the role. I was not qualified for it, but that's what happens sometimes. And what effect do you think that can have on people? I mean, it gave me a huge boost of my confidence, but at the same time, I wasn't ready. So then I had to step back, and so what do you think that can do to an individual?
Yeah, it's such a great point, Mica. Like, it's not just the impact on the team members of recruiting someone who doesn't have the life experience or the skill sets to run a team. It's also the impact on the individual. And we were talking beforehand about imposter syndrome, and we've done research with Bournemouth University that shows imposter syndrome is close to 80% of people that work in hospitality. And there's something that we can all say we perhaps experienced at some stage during our careers, but actually when you look into that and you think, well, why are people struggling with imposter syndrome? Is it because they've been put into roles where they don't have the skill sets? Is it because they don't have the support from leadership teams? Do they feel that actually they're out of their depth? And sometimes rightly so, because they haven't been given time to learn and develop those skill sets. So that's one area, but then also that damage to confidence. You could have someone who is a brilliant future leader who has completely and utterly had their confidence shattered by making mistakes, saying the wrong thing to the wrong person, learning the bad behaviors of maybe even in the severe situations, abuse, yet they had such shining potential. And so they'll step back from that role or even leave the industry because of the fact that their confidence has been thwarted. So the fallout isn't just for your team, which is still large, but it's also for incredible individuals who had such opportunity but weren't nurtured and supported correctly.
It's really interesting about imposter syndrome. I've definitely dealt with it. Has anybody else? Quite a few people. Yeah, for sure. All right. So the last question in this round here is for everybody to just discuss here. It's when you look at hospitality leadership today compared to 5-10 years ago, what's the biggest change that you guys would say you've seen?
You've caught me on the wrong side of bed this morning. Let's measure this response. The weight of negative press and negative PR in hospitality is so strong that it's deafening. You will regularly hear people go, you work in hospitality, I bet you take a lot of drugs, or, that's really tough work, you probably don't see your family. And that's rhetoric that even general public are repeating back to us. But the improvements that we've seen just in a very short period of time, last 5 years alone, in terms of, we work with PLG and provide apprenticeship training for managers, level 4. It's completely free by levy. The number of people going through that now has increased. The number of people who are taking more of a proactive role in terms of understanding their teams and behaviors and structures. No longer are reviews or catch-ups such a negative, scary thing because they're being handled in the right way. And that's just 5 years of adapting a culture in an industry that hasn't changed since the Escoffier system came in place. So, we're seeing tremendous changes. And what I'd really like to see, although we're very much data and metrics and we report on how the industry's feeling overall, I'd like to see the narrative around hospitality start to change. And actually for these incredible organizations and leaders to start to be promoted publicly as the shining light, because there is that competitive element in hospitality. And if you can tap into that competitive element and go, why aren't we offering people like flexible working hours? And why don't we have full sick pay for time off? Why are we the last ones to do it? The opportunity is so broad right now that those people who are already redesigning the wheel, trying things out, not making it work, if we can start to promote these guys, then they're the new industry leaders. They're the elders of new programming.
I think what you said is really important about what's changed in the 5 years is it's understanding. Like, we know more, so do better. And the ones who are moving forward are trying to do better with what they know more of. And the ones who are still stuck in the same way are living, still the uncomfortable. And remember, it's not either or. It's not, like there was always great leaders. Some of the leadership is still the same as 5 years previous because people were naturally great at it, as we all said at the beginning when we put our hand up of who was the person who inspired you. Then people existed before and they still exist today, though we have more information than we had previously, and we have data saying not good enough. We're not going to be working in that industry. And so now it's going to be a journey to get us to where you're talking about, but we know more, so we're doing more in places, and we just need to expand that and keep it going.
The awareness.
Yeah.
I think what's changed, and it is longer than 5 years actually, because it has been happening over a longer period, but I think it's very noticeable since, COVID was a moment in time where everything just caught up, and so you have this moment where you can say, oh, it was then, but it wasn't, it was happening way before. And I think it's the expectations of our teams has changed massively. And I think that because the expectations of teams have massively changed, that means the way we lead has had to change as well. But I think, and it's very easy to say this is generation Gen X, Gen Z, but and it is that, certainly Gen X, we sort of found our value in like just work, and we'll get our value from and we don't need a thank you, we just keep going, and then we've become the leaders. And expecting that of the younger generation. And the younger generation, the world has changed so dramatically for them that actually, and they don't have job security and all of these, there's huge amounts of research as to why they have a different attitude, but they do have a different attitude. And part of that is that they see jobs as being much more transactional, that they understand their own transactional value. And so therefore they will take a job and say, okay, I'll do this, you pay me, I go home and I don't think about it or whatever. So actually, when Gen X are saying, but we work 80-hour weeks, why aren't you working hard? When I was learning, we did this, and this. And they're not responding like that. But they have had an impact on the whole workforce. So now it's no longer just that generation. Now it's the whole, because actually everyone else has just gone, oh yeah, I don't need to do that anymore. We can do it like that. Oh, okay, we'll all do it like that. But so that's a huge challenge for leaders to just go, but this industry's worked on everyone working 80-hour weeks, and now you need twice as many staff because nobody will work past a 40-hour week if they'll even do that. So now we need twice as many staff at that, at the same time as there are more hospitality businesses than there ever were, and we've got a reduced workforce as well. So it's the pressure on leadership has mean that we've now had to change our approach. We can't operate that culture of fear, which, when I was starting in it, I definitely worked with chefs, when I was working with chefs who used to throw those big frying pans across the kitchen, and if they missed your head, then you were lucky, and nobody batted an eyelid, nobody said anything. That was the culture, that was how we all were used to, but you can't operate like that now. And so leadership has had to change, and part of that is how we create those cultures, and I know you talk about it as well, about how we create those spaces where our teams feel like they belong, where they feel that they're part of a team. We call them teams now rather than staff for a really good reason. The staff is a transaction, but actually we want them to be a team. We want everyone to be on a mission, going the same way, in the same way that a great sports team all perform. That's what we're creating. And then we want people to be coming to work and feeling, yeah, we're on a mission today, we've got to go and do this, and we know where we're going, and we're all doing it together, and we all share our values, and we all want to succeed. because that is how we create, thriving businesses and attract the right people.
Your point as well is, I think the pressure comes as well when leadership isn't changing, is business pressure is a lot. Like that P&L coming out is not fun. No one's going, woo, yay, look at that, woo. And if your budget has been built on something that needs to get signed off for you you knew you were never going to be able to compete with it in the first place. It went back and forth to be able to get signed off, because that's where and then we're going to spend the rest of the year trying to justify the budget, trying to be a great leader when I have a business pressure that is out of my hands. I thought I could influence it. It got to where it got to. And so it's that element of, even when I want to, I have these pressures on, and the math to me doesn't seem like it can 2 and 2 equals 4. That doesn't seem where it gets to. Though, it comes back to your point about like celebrating. There are many companies that are getting the balance between we can make money and we can create great teams through this great leadership, and we need to share more of that and how. And I think our industry more than ever is not like protecting, like, like I'm not going to share anything with you. Like, we want to share. We want people to be successful. It benefits all of us if all of us are successful, from small to large. And I think any information we have that's working for us, it is our responsibility to share it so somebody else can try it out. And it won't fit perfectly for them, but it is that hope that we can do the business and do great leadership for this all to not be as hard as it is.
Yeah, I mean, we've been sat on something for 2 years now, probably even 3 years, when I first came up with the concept of a healthy culture certification.
Yes.
Do you remember?
Yes.
It's been sat there. It's complete.
Yeah.
It's ready to go.
Yeah.
Like,
get that on your busy list.
Lead by example, don't take on too much, right? But it's there and it's ready, and I think we're just waiting for, it's almost like I'm waiting for organizations and teams to have enough breathing space to go, yes, let's do this now, because this will be great. But it's designed to test businesses and test their policies, procedures, induction plans, communication tools, to ensure that actually they're safe and secure, and to maybe poke a few holes in them and just see where they can develop. But also we verify that by speaking to all the teams as well, and the teams give us feedback to verify whether or not the policies, processes, procedures are all working. But I just continue to sit on it.
I think that would be great as well, because it's wonderful that there's these best places to work, though I sometimes see places on there, know that there's stories going on that are not as true, whereas this feels like it might be more factual.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be based on not just how the teams are feeling about working for the organisation, but also actually what's the concrete structure that underpins that, because there's always going to, I say there's always, I don't expect anyone to pass this when they first go through it, by any stretch of the imagination, because this is still uncharted territory for many organisations. But to get the team who are going, no, this organisation isn't culturally fit or sound, but head office is going, but we've done all these things, and then finding where the gaps are in between multi-site organisations, because it's an area manager who doesn't necessarily believe what head office is sending down. I find it fascinating, because you can start to see where the energy flow is. But yeah, maybe it's something we need to kick into gear finally after all these years. But
we talk about people being tick boxy a lot, don't we? And would that stop some of that?
I don't know if it will stop it. I mean, tick boxing is a term that we use quite frequently. But tick boxing doesn't necessarily mean people are doing it for the wrong reasons. I think that sometimes there's time constraints, budget constraints, ever in changing economy, not just in this country, in many of the countries we operate in. So best intentions sometimes are there. I think that the certification scheme, and the details are on the website, you can see, nothing's hidden. You can see what we're looking at this current moment in time before any revisions. It provides structure, and it provides a roadmap. of what we've seen best practices look like within environments and how that can be translated into getting you better productivity, better retention rates, better or lower rates of presenteeism and things like that. So I think it just because we can talk about leadership, we can talk about culture, we can talk about that, but these are all nuanced and each organisation is going to be entirely different. I think that this will help provide a bit of a roadmap so that people go, right, that's where we start.
Maybe a bit of accountability to their teams as well.
Yeah, and an opportunity for their teams to feed back. I mean, how many organisations have we worked in where not once you're asked, how do you like working here? What do you think to your leadership team? Are there any improvements that you can see we can make? And you're like, well, it's day one, I've only just got here. But like, when was the last time that sort of dialogue was had? I mean, it's uncomfortable, don't get me wrong. We did when was the CEO evaluation forum? Beginning of last year, where I asked my team, feedback, tell me how I am. In my head, I'm great. But is that reality? And where can I improve? Because there's never a stop point. There's always things you can do. And reading through those results, anonymised, was challenging in some ways because they were like, actually, you're not very, you may not as listen as much, or you're always on to the next project, and we just want to sit in the moment and enjoy this project. And you go, okay, so I can be better. But again, how many organisations and leaders have you worked for who will ask for that feedback, or will just send the information downhill rather than getting the feedback come back up again? You know?
Can I just add to going back to sort of a bit onto the original question, but one of the things that has also changed with sort of cultural change within organisations is actually the pressure on leaders. So the first thing is that obviously budget changes. Nobody's operating. Hospitality's always been in crisis, and we've always had terrible margins, but it's getting worse. But so we're operating on tighter margins than we ever have, which means that we're probably operating with less team. We're certainly operating with more pressure than we used to. So, and it's the leaders that are taking that. But equally, you've got people in the industry, a lot of people in the industry who really care about the industry, and they really care about people because that's what they do, and particularly in the leadership roles, and particularly, from my side of the industry, which is that independent sector, these are people that are passionate about what they do and purpose-driven and care about people. And so they are doing this thing, like you're saying, of like the 360 appraisals and stuff, and they're taking on the feedback, and they're taking on that well, it's not criticism, is it? But the constructive criticism. And it's hard to do that. And so actually leaders are taking on much more pressure. And at the same time, because they need to maintain psychological safety for their teams, because they know that's how they get good performance out of people and how they get the most out of people, they're holding more back as well. They are not losing their shit, they're having to hold it, they're having to walk in every single day in higher pressure with a smile on their face, even though everything's going on around them. At the same time, they're trying to create this space. At the same time, which we always forget, is we all have lives outside of this as well. We have stuff going on, and life events happen, and then and that whole thing of culturally, we have changed quite a lot in that we say, it used to be, don't bring it to work. And now, as leaders, we say, no, come and tell me all about it. We'll sit down, we'll have a cup of tea, we'll talk about it. We'll, how can I support you? But as the leader, it has to stay at the door. You can't bring it in. And so leaders actually are taking more and more. And there is a lot around that, because actually, where do leaders go with that? Because on top of that, they're isolated.
It's such an it is interesting because, in our organisation, we're very open, and I speak to my team quite openly. If I'm not feeling great, and I haven't been great for 4 weeks or so now, I'm very open with my team. And the interesting thing that I've learned is that I've been trying my hardest to remove myself from the daily functions so that I can concentrate on our global affiliates that we're setting up. But my ego's got in the way. I'm like, actually, I'll do that little bit of work for you, and you can come to me if you want any questions. But the really interesting thing, despite that open culture of, guys, I'm not feeling great today, this is what's going on, is that I was in a position where Sweden, Canada, a few other life events took me out of the business, and my team pulled around and did everything. And they respected my time off. They showed me that the culture that was created was being lived, and all the work got done, and if anything, to a better standard at a quicker pace than I would have done it as well. And that is, I think if you were to ask any leader, would you remove yourself from the business for 2-3 weeks and just allow your team to run the show? There'll be many out there who would be afraid to do that, and that's understandable.
I was going to say, I haven't owned a venue for quite a few years, and it's making me feel strange.
And they enjoyed it, I'm sure. I'm pleased you came back.
But the interesting thing is, despite the...
It was a strong head nod from Matt. It was a strong head nod.
There's the point that I wanted to try and make, and I got waylaid, was that in my head, I wasn't necessarily keeping my humanity away from them. So we have quite an open culture of that, or at least I believe we do until our next feedback form. But it was in my head, I was like, I'm not going to send that to Matt, to Mica, to Emmy, because they've already got too much on their plate and they won't be able to handle some more stuff. So I was taking on some of that commercial load. But actually, with me completely removed as a bottleneck, these guys, I mean, it's been busy. Like, there's no sugarcoating that, but they've done it. And my fears of them not being, putting too much upon them, not being able to take on another job, were unfounded, because they've shown that they can do it, which they were always showing they could, but my perspective was holding me back as a leader.
And that's a sign of quite a mature team, isn't it? That actually you've had time to build that team, and they trust each other and they trust you as well. Which is also part of leadership, isn't it? Creating that way, you create that in the first place and build that trust.
I think simple language is really helpful in these types of situations. You know, if you have cultural language that's used within your team, so you can say, like, a simple thing would be, what have you got in you today, 1 to 100, and I've got 80, I've got 40. Like, just even that means, like, they want more today. Like, people want more on occasions, and other days they don't. But it's not always that people can't cope. Like, the only way resilience gets built is if we stretch it a little bit at a time anyway. And so they have more than you realise, and they just have the space to be able to try it out. Yeah,
and that was when I did my expedition in Sweden. That was something that Ross was telling me on the way out. He was like, we use these opportunities to be in like minus 30-degree temperatures and jumping into frozen lakes.
I'm nodding like
for fun.
I did.
It's like, imagine it as a balloon, right? And when you first blow a balloon up, it's quite tough. You get it to a certain size, and then you let all the air out. The next time you go to blow that balloon up, you can blow it up to that original size quite easily. And you put a little bit more effort in, and it will expand even further, and then contract, and so on and so forth. And that's what it's about. It's not you being there manually to let the air in and out. Oh, is it going to pop? It's actually a case of going, all right, let's allow the team to fill that gap. You're there just to be able to support and to pick up and to help if needs be, but allow them to do that and then to contract so that next time it's blown up, they can do even more. So
this reminds me of what's the thing called that we did, the personality
insights, personality tests.
Yeah, what did you learn from that about your team? Being a leader to us.
So first and foremost, insights is well worth doing. It gives you information. I think you always know, if you've got a good camaraderie and a good relationship with your team, you'll always know what sort of type of personalities you've got within your environment. But actually seeing it documented on paper was quite interesting. You're going to test me. You blue or green? Yellow. Okay, so...
I could have said yellow from here. Without the questionnaire.
You're not. Me and Emmy are red. Emmy and I. You're blue. Get out of here. No?
I just put my blue hat on.
Okay, so as I've failed miserably here, and stress, like here I am stretching out, stress position. It was really interesting to see different types of personalities and how their brains work. So it showed me that I am quite direct, quite red, like to the point, let's get the job done, let's not fanny around, we've got stuff to do. But actually other members of the team like to sit and contemplate, yellow being one of them, like to divulge the information and then check the information and then go off on their own journey with it rather than being spoon-fed. And there were 2 members of our team who were yellow. I'm going to double check yours. But yeah, it was quite interesting from that perspective. There are people who are sort of more logic-based. There are people who are quite, direct and to the point. Emmy and I are quite similar in respect that we're very task-driven. We're self-starters. Just give us a blank piece of paper and we'll create an objective and just run off with it. But actually what we've found is that we leave the rest of the team behind sometimes, and we expect them to know or understand what's going in our heads, which 9 times out of 10 we don't communicate very well. So it's allowed us to take a little bit of a breather and go, okay. And like Matt, even though he is red, again.
You know what? I'll be yellow for you.
You're not yellow. I swear you were a green or a blue, but maybe I'm.
Green today.
You are green today. But Matt's skill sets after learning that insights thing was that he's very good about. Matt's a thinker, and he's a lot more attentive to detail than I am. So now if I've got something that I will probably just hash out, like the workplace wellbeing certification, I send it over to Matt. Matt will then speak to Mica. They'll digest it together, then they'll come back and tell me what we're going to do, which is the better way of the organisation working. So insights is well worth doing. I fucked that completely.
You really overthought it. I remember that.
I lost in my head.
Yeah. Anyways, that was a bit of a tangent, but moving on. We're going to talk about the reality of leading people. So leadership can sometimes look glamorous from the outside. Well, at least that's what it says here. But the reality can be very different. Cassie, you talk about in your book as well about the emotional weight that leaders carry. So what does that actually look like behind the scenes?
So I think we were sort of touching on sort of the emotional weight of that. And I say if you're coming in and you're having to hold it all together and know who all your team members are and know how they communicate, how to communicate with each of them, and then keep your life outside of work because you've got to hold it all together. I mean, particularly as an independent, you're responsible for what the customers think of your business. You're responsible for how your team. How they're feeling, potentially the community, and then your suppliers, how you look after all these people. And you've got all of these people who are relying on you and your business for plenty of different reasons, but you to lead that business and make sure that business succeeds. Then that's a huge weight that you're carrying. At the same time, hospitality is an extremely complex business, whether you're just running a department in a big place or whether you're a small business owner running the whole thing. There is so many different moving parts and so many variables, and no 2 hospitality businesses are the same. Yeah. It's very, very complex. So there's a lot of things you're holding, and I think holding that, and I say just the weight of that is there is an emotional weight to that to carry, and I think that's why a lot of leaders do end up in that sort of burnout position if they haven't got what's required to have a valve for that, and it's also very isolating. I had this when WhatsApp became the thing that's how everyone communicated with each other at work. I thought this is amazing. Look, we can do it instant time. We can put the rotors out. We can send messages. We can even organise a team party. It's all in one place. And you're having these conversations with your team. Saying, "Oh yeah, it was in the WhatsApp group," and you go, "No, it wasn't. I didn't put it in the WhatsApp group." And they go, "Oh," and then all of a sudden you realise there's 2 WhatsApp groups. There's the WhatsApp group you set up, which is for everybody, and then there's the WhatsApp group they set up, which is for everybody except for you. And that is the reality of leadership in hospitality, and it's so isolating. You're carrying everything. And I remember the story that I had on one of my venues. My sister worked for me, and I had a long-serving member of staff that had been there for 15 years, and so she was kind of a friend. And I remember there was 2 sites at the time. I had one that was new opened. It had a brand new senior leadership. They were all storming. You know how senior leadership said they're all clashing heads, and I'm trying to deal with that. And because they're going to be brilliant eventually, but at the minute they're just getting to know each other. And I come from my lunch break in my other venue, and I'm sitting there with my sister and this person who is become a friend. And I'm sitting there eating, and my way of relaxing is to just go on a full-on rant. And it was great. I was like, yeah, okay, finish my lunch, I'm off back to work. And I turned around and I looked at their faces, and it was this look of horror in their faces. And I was like going, but you're my sister, you know what I'm like, and you're my friend, you know what I'm like. What? But actually, what they had been processing wasn't Cassie having a fun old rant. They'd been processing, oh, that's what she thinks, they're her standards, they're not performing the way she wants them to, so what are we doing wrong? And actually what I'd accidentally done in 20 minutes was create fear in my own business and undermined my own culture. And that's, then you know, therefore, as a leader, that has to be that, even if it's a thin line, there has to be a line that you don't step over. And that's such a weight to carry.
Yeah, there's something we talk about a bit, which is compassion fatigue, where you're absorbing everything from your teams, and we so often go, oh, this is a family, whether you cringe at that or not. That's what we say to people, and so you do, especially if you're an empathetic person, you absorb all of that. And how do you guys think you can turn that off at the end of the day to look after yourselves?
Second WhatsApp group.
Sorry.
Matt's messaging you on it now. That's why my phone's not vibrating. I see. Okay.
I think you've really got to, that's a personal, you've got to sort of spend time to work out like what recharges my battery. That could be my family, that could be friends, that could be a walk on my own in the park, that could be a cinema, that could be you've got to find ways to distract your own dialogue in your brain. Like, how can you distract it? That is good for you, and that is a very personal prescription of what you need to be able to fill yourself back up.
Yeah, it's so important to have that. Absolutely. And like you said, it can come in so many different forms, hiking up mountains, going for whatever it is, you've got to find that to keep your balance. Okay, so Kris, from your vantage point, do you see any blind spots in leadership in hospitality today? Is this sort of
blind spots?
Yeah.
I think the biggest blind spot has been spoken about today by Cassie and Michelle, which is I think that the leaders trying to do the right thing by their people, but inadvertently setting themselves on fire at the same time. And we've seen it for years in a lot of the psychological studies that we've done with hospitality teams, where general managements are taking on increase in demands to create this culture of work-life balance and empathy, and like, you tell me all your problems, I'll absorb them, and you can have a 3-day working week. Where are those extra hours going? It's all right, I've got it, I'll cover it all for you, I'll do the 80, 90-hour weeks. And the hard thing about that is that comes from a place of good intent. We want this sector, we want this business to be better, to be healthier. I want my teams to be stronger. I want you to spend time with your family and not miss birthdays and things like that. But without putting the proper processes and structures in place, it means that the leaders are taking on all that demand. Creating a rule for one person about family bereavement, but then can't remember what that rule was for that person because you're not following a process, so you're then creating a slightly different rule. Then you've got to try and remember what those two rules are. It creates emotional load, lag, and then it just ends up in a not a great situation. So I think it's taking that intent and then structuring it with processes and policies. I mean, we talk about it from a mental health standpoint, and a lot of organisations are like, well, what do we do if someone needs time off work because they're struggling with their mental health? I was like, well, what do you do if someone breaks their leg? Hopefully you're not one of those organisations that expects people still to come in with a broken leg and work afterwards, which still happens, but gladly not as much. So what do? What does your policy say? Don't create new rules for something that already has a process and procedure. So it's just about guiding people back to something that they've got internally so that they're not taking on that load. And I think the other blind spot is not trusting your teams enough as well. You know, you go back to what you were saying with your situation is that you have to if I was to build a business again from scratch, the first thing I would do is I would not be involved in that business. As a founder, I would make sure that I structured that business from my cash flow forecasting, from my business plan, so that entire teams of people would run that without me ever having to step foot inside that business. That's what I would do differently. Whereas we want to be wanted in hospitality. We want to be the person who has the keys to the door or knows where the fire escape is if there's a fire. These aren't things that any one person should have to be needed for. So build the structures so that, again, like I mentioned earlier, you become redundant. And it's such a shit thing because inevitably it might happen. But if you build your teams that strong, I think that's probably one of the blind spots, is stop being needed. You know, it's nice to be wanted. You don't have to be.
But I think I was just going to say, because I did run businesses like that, my later businesses were all run without me on the floor at all, ever. But you do have this thing in the back of your head you can feel it from people going, oh, and because I would sometimes step behind the bar and go, oh, where are the glasses? How do I use the till? Can someone show me how to use the till? I've forgotten. I programmed it, but I've forgotten. Yeah. And you just sort of you do feel a pressure from other people. You feel a judgment from other people, or like customers going, oh, she doesn't know what she's doing, you know. And I think you have to be able to step away from that and actually turn off a lot of the noise that you hear from other people's opinions about your business. Sometimes it's good feedback, but quite often, actually, if you know what your purpose is and why you're doing it, then you can stick on that line with and be able to. I think we do need to shut off quite a lot of noise. I mean, you were saying earlier, just the volume of noise about the hospitality business, just generally.
Not just that, but yeah, I mean, I think we reached 4.5 million people last year. And everyone's got their viewpoint on what we're doing. You know, you imagine 4.5 million customers coming through your doors on a daily basis, or on a yearly basis, I should say. And the critique is huge. I mean, I was critiqued rather heavily by some individual who I guess I must have met at some point because he was using all sorts of expletives when he was explaining me. Rodent and other words that I won't repeat here. And it's about being able to go, okay, you know, you understand, you appreciate that's someone's point of view, but unless they've worked in the organisation, unless they can see it real time, unless they've had first hand of building it, that is just what it is. It's a point of view, and you have to sort of like hold yourself with that perspective in mind.
And I think that's sort of that thing about if you're purpose driven and you know why you're doing it and you're on a mission and you know what it is and you've got clarity, then you know whether someone else's opinion, because somebody else doesn't know that, and that's fine. But you know whether or not what they're saying to you is about that or whether it's just noise. And I think that's really important, because as we talked about, this load, this weight that you're carrying as a leader, what you don't need is other people's opinions. That's too much.
Outside of the environment, yeah. The work I do is a lot to do with what are the current blind spots. And the key part of it is you don't have to do it on your own as a leader. Like, the teams have the answers for you. And the more you can build in these collaborations and conversations on these, even as simple as, what are the blind spots? What am I not seeing, or what are you experiencing? And they do have a lot of ideas you don't have to carry so much of the load yourself. They have the information, they have the answers, and they have sometimes parts of the picture you can't see to understand why it is.
Yeah. It's about, again, asking your team, isn't it? It's the same thing with any strategy. It's the first thing is, what are your team saying about it?
Yeah.
Never asked them.
Yeah.
That's so key. So key.
Okay, I want to move on to the section about mental health and sustainable leadership. So can we discuss, guys, how do leaders create environments where mental health it's not tick boxing, it's genuinely supported rather than simply acknowledged? What does that look like within a team?
I invited you guys to be the panelists, but I think just to go on from my last point, ask your teams, right? Ask them what they want to see from the strategy. Ask them what they want to see from training and educational resources. I also think actually moving forward past, we've given you some training. You take in the most extreme version, 2-day mental health first aid training. We are, and I've got nothing against MHFA, I'm still good friends with the old CEO, but you take people who might not have ever experienced mental illness before or had conversations with people who are struggling with mental health issues. You give them 2 days of training and then you send them out into the world as a therapist. They're not a therapist. They're very categorically to say you're not a therapist, but you send them out with this newfound confidence because they understand what schizophrenia and bipolar and things like that are. But they have no real world feedback from that. They've got no muscle memory from that. So it's about how do we take that step from education to ingraining impact and continual learning. And that's where Mica's done a really good job on developing like coaching packages so that for MHFAers, for people who've been trained in menopause awareness, you have one-on-one time or as a group session with a trainer and a coach to run through scenarios so that you can build up that muscle memory and that skill set. So I think that's really important, that continuous development and that learning. And I guess, again, giving away all the trade secrets here, the other area that we've seen that's really successful is building communities within the teams that you have. So if you've trained a team of MHFAers or you have LGBTQI+ or neurodiverse individuals, bring them together in a community, in a group, and they can all share different viewpoints and support each other, but allow them also to create their own communities, because if it's done right, they have the right education, the right support systems, the right continual development, and they're running it themselves from a peer-led perspective, that will create your strategy, will give you real-time feedback and a structure that you can move forward on. And it then removes HR from being the handholders and more from the, okay, what's going well? What can we do better? How can we develop this? How can we support you more? What more learning do we need? And so that's, I guess, from top level is what I'd suggest. You're taking all your secrets now, aren't you?
Let's stay on the sort of practical tips conversation here. So what other small changes can leaders make, not necessarily around mental health, but just in general, just small everyday changes that can have a big impact on team culture?
As a menopausal woman, I can't remember the guy's name, but it'll come back to me. He worked at Gallup, it'll come to me. There's three simple questions. Having check-ins with your team, you don't need to have full-on 1 hour one-to-ones, and definitely no longer than 1 hour one-to-ones, unless you're just going out to enjoy yourself, because that's normally just the other person talking at you, so no one benefits from that. But like a 10-minute check-in every week with people can have a huge impact on your relationship, on the engagement. Then there's 3 questions. What went well last week? What are you focused on this week? And how can I help you? And if you did them 3 questions with people, what went well last week, what you focus on this week, and how can I help you, in a quick 10-minute check-ins, you'd be surprised how much that can move things forward. Buckingham. Buckingham is his surname. Sorry. But yeah. But
I guess most of what I talk about is, that belonging is hospitality's massive advantage, and going back to sort of it being all about humanity. But I think that with leadership, and obviously I'm coming from this small business perspective, but this does apply to all leadership really, is that it does start with you as an individual. And therefore the smallest thing you can do for the biggest impact is to really understand your place in all of this. And the first thing I think everyone in this industry should do is to think about why it is they love it. Whether that's why you set up your own business, if that's what it is, but actually more importantly, what drove you to hospitality? And then when did you fall in love with it? And why are you still in it? Because it's so easy with all of the, the noise and the difficulties in the industry to forget that and just be thinking actually how difficult it is and that every day is difficult and I need to do this today. But actually when you can hold on to why it's important and why it's important, to everybody, but more importantly, why it's important to you personally, then that informs everything else you do. That informs how you interact with your teams. It informs how your teams then interact with your customers, and then how your customers interact with your guests. And it fundamentally works like this ripple effect. You are the leader, and it all ripples back out. And it starts with, why do you do what you do? And I think that's the biggest, huge change you can make, or impact you can have.
Finding your why, or remembering your why.
Remembering, or thinking about it. Spending, just going for a walk and thinking, okay, why do I do this? Or brainstorm, whatever it is you do to help you think. But just trying to pinpoint, okay, I do this. Do I just do this because I got a job when I was 18 and now I just worked my way up and this is what I do? No, because there's a reason why you stayed. Because we all know in COVID, everyone got an opportunity to go and become Amazon drivers. So why didn't you? So why are you still here?
See, I came from outside the sector. I came from many different backgrounds, and hospitality bit me. I fell in love. Like, even the complex nature of it and how challenging it is at times, to come from 4 different industries and come into hospitality, I was like, what a beautiful, beautiful profession that has so much potential. And that's the why for why we do what we do, even on the challenging days,
Because it's exciting and it's creative and it's something different for each and every one of us.
Yeah, exactly. And the why, what I say is, if you want help, read the first 2 chapters of my book. That'll cover it. But actually, some of that comes from the podcast I did, which was people's stories of the industry. And the first question in that story is, why did you fall in love with the industry? What made you fall in love with the industry? And when people tell their story as to what brought them into the industry and then why they stayed, and some of them have gone off into all sorts of different areas of the industry, HR or marketing or whatever it is, because this industry is vast, it's huge, there's so much variation in what a job in hospitality is. But all of them have a reason why it's hospitality and not any other industry, and why they would never even consider any other industry, no matter if it paid more or which it does pay more, or it was easier. I mean, both. We stay in hospitality, and for a reason, and every single one of us have that reason. As I was just going to say, the 2 broad themes, but it's still very individual.
We're a little bit over time here, guys, so we're going to do a quick lightning round, and then we're going to wrap it up, and we'll get some food. So this is quick answers, 1 sentence each. Ready? Okay, so Cassie, 1 leadership myth you'd like to challenge?
I can't do quick fire. I do deep. I write books and do deep thinking. Quick fire,
That's a blue, right? Blue.
Is
blue?
it?
Yeah.
No, I can't just do. It's just been. Come back to me in a minute. Tell me the question again. I'll have
A leadership myth that you'd like to challenge, Kris.
You can't do it all yourself.
Oh yeah, that was it. There you are.
That's what you were
There
going
you
to
go.
say. Okay.
That's the one.
That was Cassie's.
Oh yeah, thank you. I created a whole community because you can't do it on your own.
Go for it.
Your job isn't to motivate the team. Your job is to work out what's demotivating them, as a leader especially. Motivation's an outcome for them personally, yeah?
Did you get that as a soundbite, Dan? Yeah.
Oh, was I poke? We could do again.
I have got another one. That leadership's not the same as management.
Yes.
They're not the same thing. Yes, they're not the same thing.
I think people think there's a time for management, and it's normally to do with time. Like I need to make a decision at this moment in time because we've got a time constraint. And there's a time for leading, which is let's all talk about it and think about it through. Yeah, very good.
Okay, next one. Let's go with one habit great leaders practice consistently.
What's the question?
One habit great leaders practice consistently.
Asking for feedback and open questions, and being prepared to not hear what you think you want to hear. A great leader will fail regularly and learn from the mistakes, dust themselves off and be better next time.
Oh, that links with mine. It is the Stockdale paradox. Unwavering faith, you will succeed whilst facing the brutal facts. And every great leader I have met does that.
I would say if you really want to be a great leader, you need to be looking after yourself. You've got to lead yourself first. And that, and pertinent to here and this industry, massively involves making sure you're taking breaks and you're modelling the exact thing that you want for your team. And that, modelling, I could go on modelling because that's all sorts of different things, but particularly looking after yourself and taking breaks.
Awesome, thank you guys. I think we can wrap it up there then. So just closing comments is, it always stands out so much when we do this, how much everybody cares about hospitality. How much you guys care about it, how much everybody in this room cares about it, to come and listen to us have these conversations. And it's going to be, the future is going to be shaped by how we lead people. So if there's one thing to take away, it's the culture of hospitality doesn't change on its own, changes through choices leaders make every day. So thank you guys so much for contributing to that conversation.
So